Hi, Chris. Thank you for accepting my invitation and accepting to be on my show.
Awesome. Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So I've gone through your profile. I came to know that you're a full stack developer and you help people to who are trying to come into the software development. You help them in coming into it.
Yes, yeah, correct. I'm just my day job is a full stack developer, and then on the side I run my blog where I try to help people by writing articles every day. And they are very generic web development articles, so they range from very basic to more advanced to everything in between.
So your full time job. You're from?
I'm originally from the Netherlands. I'm currently in South Africa, though.
Okay. So you have your educational background is
It's a bit of a mix, but it comes down to IT and communication. So it's a range of uh, IT, media design, and communication is what the degree is called.
okay. So your present job is a full stack developer,
Yes, correct.
and you're working from
Working fully remotely at the moment.
since how many years you are as a full stack developer?
As a full stack, well, it's a very broad term, of course, but I've been a developer for 16 years now, and I've always done quite what you would call full stack thing, just because I kind of tend to do everything in the company, like front end, back end, servers, communication side, marketing side. So that's like the for me the full stack term.
So tell me about full stack development and in your 16 years of experience, I'm sure you might have did a lot of projects and which are related to a lot of different industries and uh, uh, different things. So tell me about it and how.
Sure. Well, so first of all, as I said, full stack development is a bit of a vague term. It's a bit hard to use actually, but seeing it might be a good thing to talk about where the industry kind of moved towards, right? So when I started as a backend developer. So I worked in CodeIgniter back in the days, which is a PHP framework, and you kind of had the title backend developer. That was like your job. You had someone else doing design, someone else doing the front end, and someone else doing the communication side of marketing. But over the years, it's kind of like developed. Yeah, it evolved really. So your UI person is now also responsible for doing the data manipulation part. Your backend person now also needs to know how to like bind it to the front end. So that's something you've seen over the years, like where it's kind of expected from everyone to be more intertwined between every aspect of development. So I don't know. For me, that's kind of where you would call someone a full stack, whether people agree with that term or not. But I just find it the easiest term to use. And so for me, it's just a broad overview if you do more than one discipline in development.
Do you have any particular project that you like most in the project that you are involved in?
Yeah, I'm kind of currently I'm actually switching jobs, so I'll be starting a new job soon, which I'm very you know, excited about, and I think that'll be a very cool project to start working on. Other than that, I really enjoy the parts of being able to build a complete system that didn't exist. So that's really what I enjoy. Where there's nothing, and a couple weeks later you have a full product that people actually use. That's just what I really enjoy about being in the development scene.
So, tell me some of the experiences of the projects from the projects that you did.
Yeah, so there's a lot of experience I've done over the years. I think you mainly learn that the techniques keep evolving, so you have to keep growing with that. That would be my biggest learning. So a lot of companies, they kind of stuck on a certain system, right? It doesn't really matter what it is, but let's say they use something, they chose a framework. Um, yeah, let's see, it's Angular, for instance, but they never really grow, so they don't grow with the platform. They just kind of like, okay, we have this, we know how to use it, let's stay at that. And I think, yeah, that's kind of yeah, one of the biggest mistakes companies can make by, fixating on a certain stage a product is in. Where the companies that do really well nowadays are the companies that keep evolving, that adapted the cloud culture, adapted Docker, adapted all of that, and that are willing to drop whatever they have and just invest in a new framework, for instance, because it might be faster or it might be easier to develop on. So I think that's like in the development spectrum, the biggest learning you can get. And with that, of course, the fact that you always have to keep on learning. That's always the premise I make. That's why I started my blog, for one, is as a developer, there's always something new around the corner, and it's very hard to keep up with these things. So, for me, it's very important to keep learning and keep trying new things.
So, as a full stack developer, uh, to all the people who are into the development and who are going to come into the development, so what are the crucial points that you learned and that every developer should need to put in their mind in order to make the product beautiful and make the get the appreciation?
Good question. I think it's really a mix of um, of learning and especially learning how to work together, because it's very hard to do something on your own. So I always think it's good to have a good team and be part of a team. Um, and with that also comes a part of asking questions. So you shouldn't be afraid to ask questions, especially if you're new into development. Everything can be really overwhelming because there is so much going on, and you always feel like you don't know enough. Like even after 16 years, like you've only scratched the surface of development, so it's very hard to grasp all of it. Um, where it really comes in that you need to ask questions and don't feel uh, like it's not a normal thing to do, which sometimes I get a feeling that some people uh, experience that in company cultures where they're like afraid to ask questions because they'll get judged not knowing something. So I think that's an important part.
So you are already giving tips to the new developers and who are coming into the development. So what are the common questions that you listen from them?
A lot of people ask where to start with development. So, what they should be focusing on learning. And it is a very personal approach. So, because development is so broad, you're going to have a certain area that sparks your interest, right? So, it could be on the UX side. So, you more focus on like how it looks, then it might be the UI side. And to me, that kind of needs a different path almost. But let's say it's full stack development. I personally think it's always good to start with the basics. And the basics would be, know HTML in a very decent way. Uh, you don't need to know every element that exists, but just have a very good understanding of how HTML works, like what builds up a page and whatnot. Then of course CSS, and then I would really advise people to learn CSS from just trying it out and trying challenges and that kind of thing, and not focus too much on the frameworks at hand. Because of course there's a lot of cool frameworks that can help us, but they also take away from your learning, and it's kind of taking away from properly understanding things. And that same thing will apply to the third pillar, which would be JavaScript, almost used for literally everything nowadays. If you're talking full stack development, and there it's also very important to know the basics. So a lot of people I've seen jump straight into React. Nothing wrong with it, but to me, I think it's almost better to learn JavaScript as a basic foundation. Like, just go through the basic docs and see, okay, how does this work? What does it actually do? How does it work under the hood? And with that, you can kind of venture on to what you really enjoyed from those three things. And then, of course, it could be that you're way more into the backend development side, whereas that gets very broad. So I would really suggest then find out what kind of language you like in the backend aspect, and focus on knowing the basics of that.
So, in your experience, you might have seen people who came from non-technical background, but who are working with you, and who have technical background come to you, and while discussing with those people. So, what is the difference that that you observed in people who have background and who don't have background? And tell me the way they are thinking.
Oh, that's a very good question, actually. I haven't really given that much thought, but I did work with some people that came from a completely different spectrum. Some of them did reschooling, so they did like one of those evening courses on development, and got their certification. Um, I, so if you take me for an example, I didn't do a traditional IT background, right? So if I compare myself to the real IT people, I still have a not as good understanding of certain principles in architecture, really, but it's something you pick up over the years. So um, that's just one thing. Like, so someone who just comes from an IT education, they will have very good understanding of the principles. So for them, it's really just about getting the experience in, but they'll know what to do. Uh, then you have the people who completely come from something else, like whatever that may be, and yeah, it's very important to guide them, because they a lot of time, from what I've seen, they have a certain understanding of how topics work, and I found it really good to ask them, like, okay, can you explain to me how you think that works, just to see their thinking around it, because it might be different than how it actually works. So by doing that, I've seen that you can guide them to the right answer as to how things work. So they kind of need a bit more of that guidance, where the people with an education in IT will know more of that, understand more of the basic level of how it works. I think that's the main point there.
So you're from Netherlands. I'm sure you might have worked with different country people.
Yeah, so in the Netherlands, it's just very common to have people from all around the world working in companies, especially the bigger ones. They always tend to venture out and hire people from across the globe. So it's always been a bit of a mix and match with people from different countries and cultures to work with.
So how they all collaboratively with a team make the product, the software product, make work and deliver the great with a great quality.
You're asking how they do that?
Yeah, because they came from different backgrounds, so they how the leadership should be, and how the management should be, how the people, there will be people who are experienced, there will be people who don't have experience, like there will be people who are in the middle of the development. So how you are able to collaborate and make the product look good, work good, at the same time deliver in the time that the client needs.
Yeah, oh, that's a very good question. So I think generally what happens is that you always have some kind of seniority. So either a CTO or a senior developer, depending on on the company, right? But there will always be someone with a seniority in the company. So that person will lay out the foundation for how the company works. Um, so for one company, I was their solution architect, which basically means I would think out, okay, this is how we're gonna build it in a very broad aspect. So we're gonna need these components, and someone else can build it, but just thinking out the global system. Um, and it also works best if companies have some standards in place, right? So how to work together, what the code should look like, because that will differ for each company. They have their own kind of technical view on how the code should look. So it's really helpful if you um, elaborate with your whole team about that. And the companies that do that best are the ones that really have that documented. So new people can onboard quickly by going through the documentation, having sessions with other developers and work with them. Um, and to answer your other question about like how can you work together, I think it's really important to um, do some form of like Scrum, Waterfall, whatever, where you have recurring meetings. So I don't want to say like choose Scrum or choose whatever, but I mean it's very good to uh, know what everyone in the team is doing, and especially what they're struggling with. So the biggest thing is that people get stuck on an issue and they try to solve it for like a couple days, and then they can't really find it. Where as they would have asked a question like early in the stage. So let's say you have a stand up in the morning and they ask like, oh, I'm actually stuck on this issue. Someone else might say, oh, I had the same issue like a couple of weeks ago. I can spend 30 minutes with you and help you with it. And I think that's where teams should really be working towards, especially with now the remote work being so hyped and where you're not physically in the same place as someone.
So you're software developer since a long time. You are seeing the change of the softwares in the internet and on mobile. So in the industry, in the IT industry, so all around the world. So what is the change that you are observing gradually, year by year? What is the change that when it comes to server backend or the front end or in between? So what is the observation of your generally?
Well, so from a technical perspective, everything is kind of going into the cloud, as I said. So like in-house servers, which was very big like 15 years ago. You didn't really have, well, what you would now would call cloud servers. So of course that's a big transition where everything is moving to some kind of cloud system. And another big thing that you see is the people go for systems that have subscription-based kind of interactions. So like your Spotify and Netflix and like everything seems to be going that way from what I've seen and products I've made over the years. Where in the beginning we would make a product, sell a license to the product. Um, like even back in the days when you had Photoshop, for instance, you would buy that just once, very expensive, and then you just had it for the rest of your life. And now even that changed to a cloud subscription where you pay every month and you stop when you don't want it. So I think that also changed the architecture of systems. People way more aware of data and how to use the data. Another big change that you see is a sort of minimalism, really. So the systems I designed like 15 years ago, they were very, very broad. Like you needed to be able to do almost everything, like change the tiniest little thing in your application. Like where now it seems that we are way more abstracting these things. So if you look at like systems that work really well, they actually offer very little, things that you can customize almost. So it's like basic down actually.
So what do you say as a developer? What do you say about the user experience in your experience?
Yeah, I think the user experience actually has become way more important from a lot of perspectives actually. So you see the word user experience being used very broad. So this doesn't really apply to end customers because you now have a thing called developer experience, right? So a lot of frameworks and tools we use as developers are focused to make our lives better, which enhances the developer experience. On the other side, you start working for a company, they have a employee experience. So you as an employee must be very happy. So the whole having a good experience in products has only grown bigger and bigger over time. So if you're talking about experience, it's becoming a real big part. People get expectations, right, as to what they want. And I feel like nowadays we're in an age where that's also a back and forth, right? So if you take a product, they want to hear from their end users, and the end users want to give them advice to make their products better. So I really like that kind of interactive flow going on, where 15 years ago you had a degree as a UX designer, and you had the definite truth of UX design. Whereas now it's very much a personal approach, and everything needs to be kind of personalized for the user with the user's feedback. So it's really cool to see that all happening.
So what are the softwares that you are fascinated on the internet? So what you learn, what do you do when it comes to research side? So being as a full stack developer from long time, so what is the thing that is happening in the internet uh, from long time that you are observing when it comes to the software, the front end especially?
Um, yeah, so that's it's a bit of a difficult one to answer, but I think what you mainly see is that things become more always simpler for developers, but on the same page, it's also becoming a bit more difficult on the front end. So, uh, from my background, it was everything was very hard on the backend side. So every calculation or personalization was done on the backend and then returned to the front end, but there was no real-time stuff going on. Whereas now we get data initially, or we subscribe to it live, real time, and that's all done on the front end. So it's a lot heavier on front end developers at the moment. So I think that's the main change there, where the backends kind of evolved from being a like static machine that can grind gears to machine learning. So that's obviously a big thing. You see it in more and more applications. So I think if we talk in 5 years, it will power most of the systems. Some kind of machine learning or artificial intelligence that does stuff for us.
So as a software developer, so tell me about automation. What is going to you are already using so many automation tools and observing a lot of automation happening. So what is going to happen when it comes to the internet. So what, in future, how human is going to handle and what human is going to do with the software. He's going to do the same work that he is doing as a developer, as a tester, as a creator of the software applications. So what he's going to do, what is going to be his role in coming days when automation plays major role like artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that's it's hard to predict these things, I guess. So my vision is that you'll see a rise of people that can train these models. So like the machine learning and artificial intelligence all needs models in the background that can validate things, or the things that they need to learn. So I think for developers, there's a high demand in people that can do that part, as well as a piece of moderation will become more important, like to validate these machines and what they've written. And on the other side, I think we're going to see, you're kind of seeing that now, a lot of these no code systems, right? So where someone that's not technical can build something that wasn't possible. So there's of course like a long-term trend as well, where you had WordPress, where people could build a website that didn't really know how to build a website. If you take that example, Wix or whatever it is, there are systems to build a mobile app or a game without having the knowledge of building a game engine, because a no-code system does it for you. So I think those things will become more important. Uh, Things that developers will make. So they don't really make the end product, but they make something that a user can use to make their own product. Otherwise, data will become more important and what we can do with it. So of course, like things that are data mining, how can we use this data? What can we do with this data? That stuff will become more and more important for developers. I don't think it will take our jobs, all the automation stuff. I think we'll always play a big role in it. It will just help us to do more and do better stuff with it.
So recently, in a discussion, Elon Musk said that be careful with AI. So be careful with artificial intelligence. So as a software developer, you are observing what is happening in the software, how those are built. So when it comes to artificial intelligence machines or artificial intelligence tools, softwares, so what are the things that human need to put in his mind when building these kind of artificially intelligent machines, which are called as more powerful than human beings? So he also mentioned that if you don't be careful, it is going to be a very big it is going to be the last invention of human being.
Yeah, it might be, in a sense, because it is kind of true. Like we can't compute like a computer, especially if you see the cloud. They all run quantum cores, and most cloud systems offer it, which is something you can't grasp how quick these things can compute. Like there's no way for us to keep up. I don't think we ever could keep up with computers. Um, so yeah, I don't know what we really should be looking out for. It might be that now there's obviously a big boom in development jobs, and it might tune down because we don't need it anymore. Um, but that's just a way life will go, and maybe then we need more hands-on work again, or there will become other jobs that are needed, hardware support, whatever it is. Like there will always be something that's going to be needed because of that.
So what are the tips that you give when it comes to security to the artificial intelligence machine? You observed a lot of softwares in your life. You know the mechanism of it. You know what should do, what should not do. What happens if you do this? What will happen if you don't do this? So what are the security things you have in your mind, you give tips through your website to the new developers who wants to start development and who wants to come into the development. This is something which who are already into the development. So what are the things that what are the points that they need to put in their mind when they are building these machines, these softwares, these powerful softwares which are going to work by itself. They don't need human beings. So what are the security things that you have in your mind that they need to put?
Yeah, I don't know too much about the machine learning part of development, so I don't know can answer that correctly. But in general development, I'm a big fan of you should only y- save or request or access data that you actually need, right? So if you take any system, in the old days it was very common to ask a person like their whole life story, basically. Like you wanted all their details for who knows what reason, like marketing, I don't know. But we rarely need all that stuff. It might be good to generate a profile, but nowadays you don't really need that anymore. So I'm a big believer of don't ask for data you don't need. So I think that's always a good thing. And when it comes to creating AIs or whatever, I think we have to take in mind ethics in a way, like what's the ethical right thing to do. But I can't really tell you the right or wrong in that. Like it's not really my expertise to tell anything about that.
Do you have any experiences that any funny experiences and any experiences like error management, solving your problems when you're doing when you're involving in the projects?
I think the main thing is you can be stuck on problems. So no matter where you are in your life, you're always going to be stuck on a certain problem. Happens like to everyone, and the biggest mistake is to like keep grinding at the problem. So I've made the mistake like over and over where you just like rethinking the problem. I'm gonna solve it. Like the best thing you can do is just walk away from it and like go do something else. Like either take a walk, go do something completely else, or try your hand at another task that you have. Because you're not gonna solve it in that moment. Like you need like your brain to cool down and think about something else, and then revisit the problem, which can solve it. I think that's my biggest learning point in development in general.
So what is your driving force? What is making you wake up in the morning and do software programs, find errors, fix it? So what is driving you? What is your motivation?
I just have a big passion for technology, so I really like that we can type some code and people can benefit from it, right? So a lot of the things I do, uh, come forth of things that I would appreciate. So I really like the automation part where we can automate our life with tasks that we don't really want to do and make them simpler or easier. So that really drives me. And even if it can help other people do that, that's another version of that. And of course, to help us as human beings to evolve. So I've made some software to analyze certain disease pictures to uh, see what kind of pictures would hold a disease or whatnot. So that we can do certain things like that really drives me to be a developer and solve these kind of things.
What do you have? I mean, the compliments that you got for the great work that you did as a full stack developer. Do you remember any compliments that you cannot forget? That whenever you think about that, you feel very proud about.
Uh, I got a lot of compliments over the years, but it's very hard to come up with like a concrete one. Um, no, I think it's the biggest compliment is someone has an idea in their head, and after that they say like, "Okay, you helped me realize and bring this idea to life." That's like the biggest compliment. because it's kind of their baby, and you help bring it to this world. So you almost feel like a doctor bringing life to this world, being a software application.
And how many people are getting benefit because of the tips that you're giving through your blog?
That's hard to say. I hope a lot. I got quite a few subscribers to my blog and a decent amount of people viewing it every day. So I'm assuming people appreciate the tips I write. So I hope people are being helped. I do get some emails and messages from time to time, which I really, really like, where people say, "Oh, this article helped me solve a problem," or "Your tips are really helping me." So I appreciate that it helps people and that they learn something from my post.
Will you get time because you do full-time job? How you are able to give the tips and maintain the blog?
Yeah, the time management is pretty hectic. So yeah, as you said, I do have a full-time job, and then to do this blog every day on the side. It's yeah, it's all about good time management. So for me, it's getting up early to do the blog, then do the work day, and then in the evening have time to do your personal life and stuff you enjoy on the side, your hobbies and whatnot.
At last, what do you say to the developers for watching and listening to this conversation from anywhere on this planet?
I would really like to say that you should never stop learning. No matter who you are or how far you are, just never stop learning because it's always changing and evolving. So should you.
So, as a full stack developer, as a problem solver, as a logical thinker, as a person who guides people through your website. So, what do you say about the work that I'm doing? Have you seen any videos of mine on YouTube?
Yeah, so since you invited me, I've watched some of the videos. It's really cool that you're doing like the kind of like world tour. You're like a rock band. Yeah, it's really cool to see you, interact with all these different people as well. Like it's not just a certain type of person. Yeah, it's really cool.
So thank you, Chris, for giving me your valuable time. I want you to continue doing what you're doing and give contribution to a lot of people through your website, and also I'm sure in coming days a lot of companies that you are going to work and a lot of projects through of different clients and are going to get benefit from your contribution, and I'm sure you'll continue thinking in the way you're thinking now, and also you will see the world in a different way, so that it also helps in solving more problems of yours and of the projects that you're going to face.
I'm sure. I mean, that's the biggest thing for us as developers to help people. As much as it's a service industry, it's I think what drives a lot of us. It's awesome to be there. Yeah, and same for you. Thanks for inviting me and having me and having this chat. It's cool to chat. So yeah, keep up doing what you're doing. It's lovely to see someone so passionate about making videos. It's really cool.
Can I put this video on my YouTube channel with your permission?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
And also, can I put this audio and video clip on my podcast, website, internet, and social media everywhere with your permission?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.